Hello everyone, and welcome back to Wargame Red Dragon. We have another ranked game for you guys today. It is another community cast. We have Grim Reaper, the man himself, going up against M1911. Grim is still ranked private here, but he's been as high as second lieutenant, and so the match up against this first lieutenant, M1911, might be a closer one than you think. Grim is playing his favorite Dutch German Corps once again, and we have things going toward Bravo very quickly here. We have a Lux A1, some Recon Infantry, and a DAF YA, and then a mix of infantry, it looks like. Some Verpilog 95 probably going to be in those AMX Pres, then ATGMs and Manpad teams backed up by some standard infantry and a Martyr 2. Now, in the center, we have a pretty big investment from Grim. There's Martyr 2, Leopard Verkenning, much more infantry, and a Flakpanzer Gepard A2, as well as a Recon Helo that's headed up and forward. So 45 points, not able to defend himself. This is a bit of a large investment for it. I do kind of prefer the 30-pointers myself, but then we also have some command infantry and a YPR just headed to Cap Delta. So, in addition, on the right-hand side, we have a very light investment, some Verpilog, and it looks like some Manpad teams, as well as standard infantry. These are going to be Grenadiers in the AMX Pres, as well as some Scout infantry and a DAF YA. So, I think the stated intention here, by the look of this deployment, is just to hold in Delta, to hold in Bravo, and to figure out where the enemy is weak, and then push them there. So, very defensive sort of start, and right off the bat you can see that Recon Helo is taking down AA, firing at the F-104G, and this guy's pretty cheap, 60 points, but it doesn't mean that you want to lose him off the bat, and evac ordered, he's maybe just able to get out, and it looks like yes, so that plane is home safe. +2 ticking for Grim, as it doesn't look like M1911 has started off by capping Alpha, so interesting choice there. A lot of players do tend to enjoy pushing first and then capping once they've gotten something on the way, but a big juicy +2 zone is a very nice and tempting thing to get. So right off the bat we have a triple stack of M11P Abrams. These guys at 80 points have 17 frontal armor, 15 AP power, and without dedicated ATGMs or armor on this right hand side, they're going to be quite a problem, especially considering it's highly doubtful that they're alone. So we also do have some movement here toward the woods. This is something I've tried myself as well, and it's a very nice, very deadly trap. If you can get into the woods on this side, as it looks like M1911 is trying to do with these Rovait, you can cut off the reinforcing lane for Foxtrot, and it's a decent way to attack this zone from the Red 4 side of the map. And also it's a little bit less expected than the standard go around the side and see if you can get into the town. So we'll see how it works out. Right now it looks like it is, well, pretty much unopposed here in the woods, as this is just a huge map to try and cover this early, so a little bit difficult to predict if your opponent goes all in one location. But Leopard Verkenning is getting some nice shots here. We do also potentially have fire support from the Flakpanzer Gepard A2, as well as this Paller Milan 2 team. And the Rovait are split up, trying to move through and get into the woods. Zeldas will outduel a DAF YA every day and twice on Sundays, because this guy doesn't have a gun. Poor fellow. But, I mean, for 5 points, these are very different transports, right? Zelda's 5 points, 3 guns, 2 frontal armor, and the DAF just has some wheels. So very, very different indeed. Rovait are taking a bit of a pounding, but they're also acting as a screening force for this triple stack of Abrams, who will be demolishing a Martyr 2, except weapons jammed, so just able to get away from that fire there. Then we have a bit of a duel here, AMX Pre going up, probing forward, but encountering Zeldas, who are also shooting at these Grenadiers, and this is not going to be able to make much headway without support. So Milan 2 teams are going to be getting a couple nice shots here. It looks like some of the Abrams maybe moved up. Yep, and weapons jammed again. Second time for that same crit right in a row. That has to be a little bit rough. But Rovait 90 are supporting the push, and of course, if they can get their guns online against the Milan team, yep, it's not going to last very long at all. In the meantime, reinforcements have arrived for Grim. Panzergren and Martyr 2s will be dueling with Zeldas and Rovait 90 in these woods, but these guys, they'll take a surprising amount of damage from that. So you can see the high suppression off of the Zelda's 3 guns is going to be getting rid of a single Panzergren team, and that's 25 points. So these guys would have to kill 5 Zeldas to make up for the damage that they've taken, not to mention the damage to the strength of the second team, which very much comes out ahead for M1911. And this is sort of the overall benefit of what looks to be Blue 4 mechanized sort of deck, is just get that grindy value. Engagement after engagement after engagement. Verkenning trading shots with the Abrams, and this, I have to say, doesn't strike me as the best idea, and there he goes, Verkenning taken out by the 1P. So that's 17 frontal armor, allowing him to really outduel that Verkenning even at relatively close range, when both guns would be getting significant bonuses to their AP. The 1P Abrams just hit like a truck. Down goes another scout helicopter, and this might be a very one-sided game indeed. So let's go into Speed 2 as things do progress here, and Martyr 2 is dealing with Rovait in the woods. will be a relatively easy fight, so will Panzergren. These guys are 10 points for a reason. They really don't have the strength to stand up to some of the best infantry in the entire game with that H&K G3A2 and the improved MG3. So it is going to be a bit of a setback there for the Red 4 player. Well, I guess really more of a stall, right? And that's okay, because this guy, M1911, with his mechanized deck, is probably content to have those engagements to keep his Abrams alive, to sacrifice lowly Rovait for some pretty expensive targets, Martyrs, ATGM teams, Panzergren, things like that. That's probably okay with him. On this side, it is looking pretty skim, though. We have a Chumot that's outside of a town he desperately wants to get into, and there is a GUE Cha capping, so M1911 is taking the lead there in points, but I don't know, this is another interesting thing. So there was no cap from Grim at this point in in Bravo, and I think that was wise, just dealing with the aggression from M1911 on the other side, but now it's, yeah, I don't know. So you can go in for the cap here and contest, or you can go in for the cap on Bravo. It's not capped by the Red 4 player quite yet. Well, the Red 4 side player. It's both Blue 4 here in this ranked game today. I don't really know. So this is a good defensive formation. We have Deckensgruppe, we have some Milan teams, Fliegerfoss, Verploy, Grenadiers, lots of fire support from the AMXs in places they won't get shot quickly. So this can hold, but this is where you've already seen M1911's armor. So I don't know. It just... Grim is a better player than I am, so it's difficult for me to criticize too much, but it just seemed like a bit of an odd choice considering there is also a concave here. Milan teams, Verplug 95, Fliegerfoss, more Huzao Ren, Panzer Grenadiers, Martyr 2s, and no enemy armor spotted yet in the AO. We have also a Lux A1, this is the one off the initial deployment that has gotten all the way toward the back. This guy is the 40-point version. Don't see him all too often. I think it's the 25-point version. The Lux is more common, but 2 frontal armor and the RH202 autocannon do make him pretty deadly to deal with, as well as very good optics and, of course, that high speed. Double stack of M1 1P Abrams, and this is sort of what I'm talking about, right? There's still very few tools in this area that can deal with him in a straight fight. The Milans can, but a little bit of smoke does take care of that. Of course, that would rely on the smoke being in the correct position, which is also often hard to manage. So let's go into speed 2 here again, as this YPR carrying command infantry takes a very deadly path up to the side, and here we can spot Rovait moving up, Zelda's moving up, there's some mortar fire as well coming in, and that is going to be smoke just going along this advance, and it's very clearly M1911's intention to push Grim out of this side of the map, and just on pure value he might be able to do it. So you can see Zelda's are taking those Milan 2 shots, but that's fine. These guys, they don't have infinite ammo. There's no resupply truck back here, so every shot these guys use on a 5-point transport is pretty much a victory for M1911. I mean, he's lost 15 points there. It's not 0. That's not sort of what I'm saying, but these Zeldas have made it so that the Milan team has 4 shots left to use against at least 2 80-point tanks that we know are already in this section. So with that, the command infantry from Grim has disembarked. It is in the center of the town here, and yeah, a Leopard for Kenning will be providing some pretty good fire support, as well as a Mortar 1A3. We've dealt with what looks like in the center of Foxtrot, but if we look at the neutral, that's not everything. So Rovait, double stacked, moving through the woods. Here are the 2 M11P Abrams as well, probably going to be pushing with the Rovait and getting some fire support behind them, and yeah, down to 0 ATGMs left off this Milan team is not where you want to be. Of course, there was no subsequent push across the open ground, and there very well could have been, but it's a bit of a double-edged sword, right? So M1911 doesn't know that that's all that Grim had. He doesn't know that there was no resupply vehicle in that town, so it is still risky to go across the open ground until you try it. And I think that last vehicle was him trying it, seeing the ATGM and saying, okay, well, there's still more here. That probably means I can't go across the open ground safely. Verplug 95 against Rovait 90, and this will be relatively interesting. When these guys hit, they really hit hard. So those missiles off the Super Dragons do explode, and you can actually friendly fire yourself with them. It's kind of hilarious. But, I mean, 5 damage off the first volley, 2 damage there off the second. I mean, it is what it is. It's decent value at range, right? These guys ordinarily wouldn't be able to open up. You can see the Grenadiers weren't shooting in yet, even though they do have that tertiary FN mag. But this is going to be a problem because Bravo has been capped. There is now a command infantry call-out from Grim headed toward Bravo, But 74 to 52, he is on the back foot, and even if Bravo is countercapped, it's going to be an interesting thing. So the looks A1, spotting some things in the backfield and just sort of nestling himself back here, trying to keep an eye on what M1911 is going to be calling in. And there is, I don't know, there was some base defense. If we take a look, so M1911 has some Zeldas out, some Rova 890 out, just a cheap screen here, but a very thorough one at that. So if this looks had tried to get in anywhere on this side, Rova 890 would probably be able to win that fight, and if they didn't, the reinforcements definitely would. So, very nice base defense from M1911 indeed. And here comes the push, Rova 890 across the open ground, exactly as we thought. M11P Abrams providing that fire support from back in the woods. Those main tank guns won't do the most damage to infantry in towns, but they're doing enough, especially with the M2 Browning and M240 guns off these guys. So, one of the rare, cheaper tanks that still has good armor and a good primary, with two sets of guns on top for the cost is very nice. But the Rovite teams have been taken out. A lot of that was from Verploeg, but also from Grenadiers that were on the far side. So it looks like for right now that has not quite worked, and the smoke hasn't really done much to prevent it. But precision fire against Verploeg 95 does get some revenge, and the Block 15 OCU is a very expensive way of getting rid of a 1P Abrams. 145 points, it did get the kill, and right now down to 4 strength, and then taken out by M1911's AA net. So, very expensive trade there, 145 points for 80, and moreover, just losing the availability on that Block 15 has to hurt. So, Grenadiers pushing up, and their their anti-tank weapons will be able to get some scratches on the M11P, but not a ton. And you can see now there's more trouble. Fusiliers 90 and Warrior Milan's backing this up, and the Abrams taking out AMX Prees with those guns of theirs is going to be difficult. But the Milan team has been resupplied. It looks like 9 missiles left, and one immediately taking out a Warrior Milan is definitely a good thing for Grim. 25 points. These guys' 6 frontal armor is pretty nice. But, I don't know, it's interesting. The Rarden is not the world's most wonderful ATGM, and that certainly will come at a cost. You can see Grim is being worn down here. Grenadiers holding the line, but many of those other infantry units that we're holding here are taken out. Fliegerfoss team, very fragile, being moved back by Grim, trying to keep him out of the way of incoming fire. And a double squad of Leopard 1.5s. This does have some very nice potential. So these guys, 55 points, cheaper than the M11Ps, and definitely not nearly as much frontal armor, 8 compared to 17. But the 10 rounds a minute does make them decent against infantry and vehicles, more so than, say, something equivalent with 8 or 9 rounds per minute. And the 15 AP power is more than enough to bore through the armor on those armored transports. The only thing they'll really have difficulty dealing with is the M11P Abrams, and the two of them put together on a relatively small distance might be able to get it done. So, more Warrior Milan spotted just briefly, and that means that the I keep calling him the Red 4 player, but I mean, it's Blue 4, so I'm just going to call him the Red 4 player for now. So the Red 4 player with his Blue 4 mechanized deck is trying again. It does kind of make you wonder why the smoke was all over here instead of cutting across this straight. I mean, the Milan teams wouldn't have been able to get good angles of fire, and those Warrior Milans would not have died. So Leopard 1.5 is also getting some good shots in damaging. It looks like shot at... Ooh. Yep, that's the M11P Abrams. The Warrior Milan does go down, and a very nice, very valuable hold here from Grim, taking out those expensive transports. That is not what a mechanized deck wants to do. It wants its Zeldas to die and its warriors to stay alive. So, a bit of back and forth there on that side, and let's just go take a look at the rest of the field. Still a hold here in Delta from Grim, and if we switch to M1911, definitely a more established hold here as well. There's Rovait now backing up Chumat, Nanosan Shikis moving a little bit forward, Zeldas, and then we have AA, SCRF 9040s. These guys are very, very deadly indeed, and I like them quite a bit. I don't know, I'm not sure if they're the best. 5 frontal armor isn't necessarily fantastic, but they can get a lot of work done. But still, just the endless tide of infantry going into this town is beginning to become a problem. Verploeg 95 backing up here, but 10 strength because they're 5 each, and for that cost is not the best way to deal with, it looks like, those Fusiliers 90 and just the dedicated infantry push from M1911. So they are moving up, but this is going to be contested town-to-town fighting if the Fusiliers get in, and that could be very, very deadly. So yeah, they are getting shot at by Grenadiers, but Super Dragons, can they shoot inside of the same town? That's weird. Huh, I guess they maybe could. They were still aiming. We didn't really get to see them shoot, but these guys are scooching around. They are able to get rid of the Mankat 1, not Mankati, the Mankat 1 from Grim, but, I mean, I guess they're getting worn down, and the Verploeg can't target these Warriors Milan, but I mean, those autocannons are just going into the frontal armor of AMX Prees, and that is not going to be the most effective fire ever. I wish the Leopard 1.5s were able to get their guns online, though. That would be a very nice way of taking out those warriors, particularly with the overlook here from the cliff. So this is going to be a very, very concentrated game on this side of the field. By now, it looks like both players just investing in that side. And if we take a look over in Bravo as well, this hold is relatively light. So it's a Jiwi Cha, Mistral, STRF 9040. I don't love that position with the Jiwi Cha. He's trying to hide it in the town, and that can indeed work better than it might at first seem, but I don't know, it still seems a little bit risky to me. So another Mancot 1 coming up here. These guys, of course, are genuinely considered to be some of the most value resupply vehicles that there are, a little bit better than the 15-pointers and 20-pointers for the cost, and not quite as expensive as the 40-pointers, but Milan team taken out by some artillery, and F-104G, I'm not quite sure what he was going for, but that AA net is absolutely brutal, and down goes the third plane. I do also want to point out that Lux A1 is still just back here spotting, probably getting an eye on helicopters and things that are coming in, but it doesn't look like there's too much active spotting on the reinforcement line itself, so we haven't really seen many red blips on the upper side of the map there, and that is going to be a bit of a problem for that vehicle's intended use. But another kill off the Verploeg, and I mean, you know, these guys get a bad rap, I think, because used like that, it's a 30-point double stack. It's already gotten 25 points. It doesn't need to get that much more to make it a worthwhile pick, and you can see why Grimm does like them so much. Now the Leopard 1.5s are able to shoot, and that will really stymie this advance as, I mean, both these guys are panicked, down to very little armor remaining, one of them dead again, and more Verplugs going in, another Verplug getting the kill. So these guys, 30 points worth of infantry, getting 50 points worth of kills on armor is pretty nice, but moving into the path of bombs, and Verplug and Grenadiers go down as the Red Fort plane does make it out. So a bit rough there. Declan's Grupa still holding, Parmelan 2 still holding, more Grenadiers still holding, but look at the number of Fusiliers. We also have now French tanks, the AMX RCSB line coming up to provide fire support, and I don't know, these Leopard 1.5s have done just brilliant work holding in this section. I mean, the amount of attrition suffered by M1911 has to be just huge, and it does kind of make me wonder why we're not seeing more Rova 890 and Zeldas taking the brunt of this fire, and really just doing both waves at the same time. A little bit of a break, followed by just a massive push. Might have been able to accomplish a little bit more here, especially if it had the element of surprise. Well as, I mean, both players by now, we've been looking at the same side of the screen for at least 10 minutes. Both players by now do have a pretty good idea of what's going on, and it's just the knife's edge of, can M1911 get his troops in before they get taken out, yes or no? We do have artillery coming online now for Grimm, and it's a bunch of M107s, each one split up, different location, trying to confuse counter-battery fire, and probably going to be cycled around moving. But here we have a Kurnos coming in, Fighting Falcon as well. The Kurnos did get a kill on a Gepard, and those big bombs off the Fighting Falcon are going to be absolutely brutal. Yeah, Command Infantry killed, Fliegerfoss team killed, Huzal down to 1, Parmelan down to 1, and this side of the town has just been gutted, absolutely gutted, by M1911's good use of a bomber. So we do have Panzergren, and these guys have been holding off attempts to go through the woods, but a second Fighting Falcon coming in, those huge 1,000-kilogram bombs unleashed once more, both of them coming down, and it looks like the Leopard 1.5s were the target, both of them taken out, and that's actually brutal use of those large bombs. I wouldn't have necessarily expected that myself, but a Hawkios not quite. Oh, Hawkios and the KWS do get revenge. It looks like that plane going down here all the way in the back part of the field. So I don't know, down planes in this game always just kind of look like pancakes to me. It's like, yeah, it's smush. There's no actual change to the unit model, so they just kind of sink into the ground a little bit. It's kind of goofy. But Foxtrot is looking very, very deadly for Grimm. And, well, overall, just a very grim situation. The answering artillery fire into the far town, has been able to take out M1911's command infantry, though, so it's a bit of a fair trade in terms of capping, but really only in terms of capping. And now as we take a look at M1911's deployment, you can see such a huge investment, all of those infantry, all of those expensive vehicles, and there's nothing left on this side other than a chaparral. So maybe that was because of the plane buys, and we can see there's more plane buys coming in. Again, that Kurnos really is doing excellent screening for the Fighting Falcon, trying to get the bombs online, and let's see what they land on this time as, yeah, I mean, this really, it doesn't look as bad from M1911's perspective for Grimm as it does from Grimm's perspective for Grimm, so that's a little bit weird, but KWS is taken out, Tornado F2 backed up by a Noah, and yeah, this just, I would be panicking. I would be so just like, oh my goodness, can I hold? Can I hold? Can I hold? Is there a way to salvage this? I really don't know. So Bravo has been secured, and it looks like there was also some artillery coming down, just scattered all over the back end of Bravo, and able to get the kill there. So these 60-point artillery pieces really just, I mean, between them, that's 2 command vehicle kills, over 200 points worth of destruction, not to mention annoyance, as that has to be putting the Red 4 player a little bit on tilt. But we do have that close-in mortar support smoking, and this time it is smoke over on the right-hand side. There, I think he's kind of done accepting that supporting fire from above on this side of the field, and that's going to mean a push here very soon, as there probably have been reinforcements over into the woods. Let's take a quick peek, and not quite yet. This is a little bit early for the smoke, but there are units coming up. But artillery pounding into the MM-135s, and Gewehrmen, as well as those 20-point vehicles, have taken a bit of a hit. So, I mean, some good work there. It will slow down this push. It will weaken what eventually comes in. And you can see the smoke. This might have been the intention, actually. The smoke has drawn the attention of all of this artillery as well, but pounding into a position that isn't yet prepared to go. And this is a nice trick. I've done this to people as well. You smoke a position, and then you don't push, and you smoke position, and you don't push, and you smoke position, and then finally you do push, and when you do, they've stopped responding, so they go, oh, well, there's not actually anything going on there. It's a little bit difficult to say what's happening. He's probably just trying to distract me, because getting your opponent to think you're pushing somewhere, and then to devote reinforcements to that section, to spend points, to spend attention and micro where they shouldn't, is a valid tactic, and a very effective one at that. But the Fighting Falcon needs to go down, because it's just pounding again and again and again into this side of the field. Grenadiers, Deckensgruppe, and the Milan team's just barely making it out alive, as now we do have the push. Commandos 90 and all of those cheap 5-point transports. This is what you want to see from a mechanized deck indeed. This is the way to do it, to make sure that those Milan teams don't make up their value twice and maybe 3 times over. But we do have a counterattack now. Stuttruppen going in and spotting a triple stack of MM-135s. Those are, of course, Scandinavian transports carrying infantry, no doubt, and I mean 10 points each isn't all that much, but these guys have a wonderful angle, and those AT4s are going to be absolutely brutal, particularly when supported by AMX Prees shooting in against those damaged Gewehrmen. It looks like the tertiary is online, so that last NM-135 is going to be safe for right now. That is a problem. It has stunned one group of Stuttruppen, and it probably looks like a kill there as well. Commandos 90 trying to move up and through the town, snaking your way through. You can do it with the lead infantry very well, but these guys are kind of struggling a little bit. They're trying to just avoid having to fight and to seek for a command vehicle. That's what they're trying to do there. And it's definitely a valid strategy. It's definitely one that's annoying as hell to deal with, because unless you have elite infantry of your own anchoring this formation to really buzzsaw through and punish infantry that's trying to do that, it can be very hard to deal with. But Stuttruppen do make the save, and down go 3 units of Gewehrmen for that, but now we have to be careful. Artillery was called in, and the Stuttruppen are walking into it. Please, no, turn back. As enemy artillery is coming in as well, but let's see. Yeah, more volleys, and that has to end up in some friendly fire. Let's take a look. Yeah, that looks pretty rough. 8 men in the Stuttruppen. Yeah, they're safe. Just barely dodging that friendly fire, and they're redirected by Grim, probably trying to stay away from it. Iltis KDOW is repositioning and now hiding behind this section of trees. It's a little bit farther away. Decently predictable spot. It'll get hammered from time to time, but the switch between them is a way to keep people guessing, because basically wherever your opponent guesses first, you move into it later on, and they won't necessarily expect that. Gewehrmen sparring with Stuttruppen, and these guys, they have MG3s. It's a nice tertiary, but Stuttruppen with their better training are just going to take these guys. Yeah, they're going to blow right through them, and there's not much that the Gewehrmen can do, particularly when the AMX Pre does get in and support. So, finally, for the first time, it is looking kind of okay on that right side, and you can see it's forcing M1911 to have to try to mix things up. So we have some vehicles moving forward here, probably just seeing if they'll get shot if they go this way, testing Grimm's defenses, and Martyr 1A3 will be responding. ATGM on the KFV-25, very nice side shot, very nice kill there, and yeah, definitely more valuable than the 5-pointer that was up ahead of him. So, pretty nice kill there. I do actually like the KFV line myself. I use it a lot when I play as Blue Dragons. Well, I guess for the infantry that can't get those other, the vehicles with the Chumots, I can't remember at the moment, but I do prefer those, I think. Puma Pirates coming in, and you can see the spotting off of Grimm's looks A1 has been persistent. Not perfect, not blanket everything that's coming in there, but seeing helicopters alone is a nice perk, and you can kind of tell what your opponent is buying, so that's 60 points. Oh, 40 or 60 points off of those relatively cheap helicopters. More smoke coming in, and if I was Grim, I'd kind of be wondering what's coming up this way, because Astute Troopin are here, they are protecting on this side, but it looks like more Warrior Milans just trying to sneak around again and again and again. But the success of that first Astute Troopin counterattack has made more on that side come available, and Panzergren dealing with Mistral teams back here, getting into M1911's backline for the first time, forcing that other player back and to have to deal with a push going into his side of the field. So we'll have to see what comes there. There is a Verkenning as well, very nice for spotting, very nice for direct fire support for something like Panzergren moving up, and I wish these guys had been resupplied, but sometimes such is life. So these Puma Pirates, 25 points each, probably carrying paratroopers, and I really wish there was something that could try to take them down. Fliegerfoss team is going to be too far away. These guys more than likely going to be landing sort of back here, and then depositing and letting those infantry go forward, so we'll have to see what they do, and it looks like yes. So they're slowing down, yeah, they're going in for the landing there, and that's really unfortunate. Taking those guys out in the air would have been such a valuable pickup for Grim, as you know, he is trying to go across the open ground. M1P Abrams is defending there, and you can see the Verkenning isn't going up to challenge him this time, and that is a very, very smart move. He would be able to get him if he could get that side shot first, but the second they turns to start dueling, the Verkenning's going to be at a disadvantage once more. So, Astute Troopin moving forward and dealing with Fusiliers. This is going to be an interesting match. Regular training off the Fusiliers and shock training off the Astute Troopin. These guys, of course, do have a mini-me as well as that C7, and it should be pretty one-sided, and it is. One group of Fusiliers already gone, but the Pirates moving up now, and those autocannons can do really excellent infantry support. So we'll have to see if they can get those guns online. It's tricky to get the line of sight there in the woods with helicopters. It's like you can see he gets it, he loses it, gets it, loses it, and the Astute Troopin, yeah, they are going to suffer as soon as those M621s get online. One of them, two of them, and you can see the Fusiliers actually staying alive, Warrior Milans moving forward, and this hold, it needed support. These YPRs, if they were up there, supporting that, shooting in the Pirates, keeping them from getting their guns online against the Astute Troopin, might have been able to hold that a little bit better. But it's easy to backseat drive, as it were, and that's what I'm doing, as this isn't my own game. So, as always, grateful for the for the opportunity to community cast things like this. It does. I don't know, I like learning from what both players do without having to suffer the lumps directly from either a win or a loss here myself, and just so much smoke. Look at this, all of this smoke, blocking line of sight from the entirety of the town here. Puma Pirates trying to move over, but Hakios will be denying that, and it's a very expensive AA piece for those cheap helicopters, but these are the Commando Marine probably dropped off in those helicopters, and they will buzzsaw through Grenadiers like you would not believe. So AA-52, not the best tertiary, but elite training will make it, so it doesn't really matter. And here comes the scoot and shoot once more, so the Commando Marines trying to inch their way through this town. And the second they're past the Astute Troop, and here it is, Milan team's Fliegerfaust and a recon helicopter is between them and that very expensive command vehicle. So a very deadly situation there for Grim. Also, the Fliegerfaust were taken out, and these YPRs just trying to hide and stay alive for the moment. At least that's the look of it. Gepard A2 coming up, and his radar gun is on. A little bit questionable considering the high activity of the Kurnos earlier on in this game, but we'll have to see what they can do. Commando Marine dealing with Fliegerfaust, moving through once more, and ooh, taking fire from a Martyr. Let's see, no spot yet on the KDOW, but when they move this way, there it is, they are spotted, and that next shot from the Commando Marine will take that guy out. So, a very nice showcase from M1911 on what you can do to thread through defenses on this side. And at this point, it doesn't really matter if the Commando Marine die. I mean, 70 points for 100 isn't the best trade ever, but it is a good one, and it does force out another command vehicle buy from your opponent. So it is a very nice play there indeed. And yeah, these guys are going down. Astute Troopin will corner these guys, and there's just too much fire. But they've accomplished their mission, so they will be remembered fondly, I'm sure. Gepard A2 screening out the Puma Pirates, and that is pretty nice. And we have something else that is happening. So a quad stack of Leopard 1.5s, lots of Flak Panzer M42A1s. Actually, I'm not too familiar with those guys. Looks like light fire support coming up there. There was a split, but it looks like Grim is preparing for a counterattack in Alpha, as Foxtrot goes from bad to worse once again with more Commando Marine entering this town, and this time they can just sit if they wanted to and take out the units here one by one, and there's really not any infantry that is left that can really handle something like this in this town. So that one unit alone, provided there's no bombing runs or things like that, would be able to get all the way through this entire side of the field. But here it comes, AMX Prees leading the way, Martyr 1A3s, Declan's Gruppe, Grenadiers, and Huzal run behind. And let's see, The huge armor column is still a little bit far back. Leopard 2A1s and Martyr 2s maneuvering as well, and some friendly fire off of that artillery is a little bit worrisome. Smoke also going down, and you have to wonder what response is there from M1911 now, as there's a threat of a late game surprise here. But it doesn't look like there's been any purchases yet. We'll have to see if that stays that way. Jigsaw Huagiban are going to be very nice at screening out Deccan's group, but just the longer range there. But Chumat teams are struggling, Rovite 90 as well. It's difficult to say. You could switch their positions, but then the Chumat don't have a great line of sight. And here it comes, ladies and gentlemen, the counterattack we've all been waiting for in this game. 2 Leopard Verkennings spotting, lots of Flak Panzers, lots of Leopard 1.5s, and these guys do have surprisingly good stabilizers at 50% for the cost. So, I mean, lots of Blue 4 tanks do have those wonderful stabilizers compared to pack tanks, but I mean, when I saw that the first time, I was sitting there going, really? Damn. That's actually really not horrible. And you can see the M42A1s actually getting a surprising amount of damage in on Rovite, distracting them, maybe allowing the Huzaren and Grenadiers to get into that town. Gepard A2 is going to be shooting in as well, and this finally will have forced out some buys. So a bunch of Lachatut Mapots. These are the Israeli 60-pointers, 60% accuracy, 45% stabilizer, 22 AP. They won't bust a super heavy, but they can deal with some lighter units, and that is what's moving through. Oh, geez, that was so ominous looking. Look at that. It's just this snake. Reminds me of the 13th Warrior. The Worm of Fire is come. But Grim is moving up. Still infantry in the AMX Prees, not unloaded yet, trying to get them into forward positions, and the Gepard is screening out the Mapots. 60 points worth of kills right there. We'll have to see OH-60 also being targeted, and a command vehicle. Interesting. I didn't really catch that the first time around looking through there, but there was a command vehicle buy from M1911, probably headed over toward Bravo by the looks of it. Taken out. Kurnos is going to be shooting in, and down goes the Gepard A2, but Jiwit Shah is going to be found and killed by Leopard Verkenning, and this counterattack with the Mapots really hasn't had as good success as you might think. Second Gepard A2 is going to be screening, but taken out by the Kurnos as well, so there is still one ATGM helicopter here who can get his shots online. But with the loss of Alpha, that is finally a +1 ticking for Grim, even with the loss and cap from the Red 4 player on Foxtrot. And you can see there's actually an Eltis KDW by Grim as well, trying to secure that zone. Very greedy, but if you can get it, that's a +3 at least. And, I mean, the Leopards sparring with AMX 10s, this is good for Grim. Those 40-point tanks aren't going to be able to deal with the numbers and firepower of the Leopard 1.5s, particularly as Leopard Verkennings are now anchoring this formation, so even if these guys do die, anything coming out has to deal with them as well, and they are hidden, which means probably first shot, unless that OH-60 has something to say about it. But this is going to be very, very difficult to deal with. Lux A1 finally moving up from his hidden surprise section there in the back, and let's see. Ooh, it doesn't look like he's opposed. It might be that the base defense has been moved in that area. Yep, it has. Either that or it was taken out, and it looks like the Lux A1 is spotting for the Leopard 1.5s in the back. That's beautiful. But engaging here and making himself spotted is going to mean that that 1P Abrams is going to be able to take him out without too much trouble. So the Leopard 1.5s moving forward, they have dealt with most of the French tanks that were reinforcing in that section, and just sort of trying to clear out a couple of different spots, it looks like. I don't know. I mean, you can kind of guess where the enemy CV is. You can see a frame of that fob there, so probably not in that section, and down he goes. So the command vehicle for N1911 has been taken out by Grim in this last second, +4 ticking as Alpha is capped as well, and that is going to be all she wrote for this game. To his credit, M1911 does not surrender, but it's just going to be a little bit too little, too late to deal with this huge, huge hold from Grim on this side. So still some dueling here, but it's going to be contested. It's going to be a big fight and not quick enough to save that position. So very nice game to both players. Of course, Grim Reaper leading the way with kills, 3370 to 2615. For a long time, it didn't feel like that, and I have to wonder if that was really that last action, getting some nice kills on planes, helicopters, and tanks, and then finally a couple of command vehicles, 3 command vehicles, at least 300 points there. So without those, 3070 to 2615 is much closer. And it is, I mean, it's kind of impressive to have that push and come out positive for it, so very nicely played there. Units that did very well, we have the Leopard Verkenning that was there for a while, Rove 890, Fusiliers, Schumach KFEs, and the Parmelan 2s that were in the town. Actually, both of them put together, it looks like going to be a ton of supporting IFVs, as well as a couple of tanks, one of the Abrams, double AMX 10 RCSBs, and lots of Warrior Milans off of, I mean, Geez, that was... These guys, these units probably saved that entire size, so really buy your ATGM teams. Don't skip it, you won't regret it. And that is going to be all we've got for you guys today, so thank you all for hanging around, and we'll see you again real soon.